Good morning and welcome back to Minds Over Magic, the podcast where psychology meets romantasy. I'm Katya, a romantasy reader.
And I'm Katheryn, your resident psychologist and psychotherapist.
And if you're watching us on YouTube for the first time, welcome to the chaos. Today, we're starting our analysis of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, book 2 in the Empyrean series. Brennan is alive. Andarna is no longer golden. Colonel Atus has been fired. Violet is not letting Xaden back into her bed. Do I even need to do chapter recap today, Katheryn?
Yes, you do.
I think I just summed it up.
Well, welcome to our YouTube channel and welcome to season 2. We're very excited. In these chapters, we see that Violet is moving from survival into responsibility mode. And psychologically, that shift raises questions about purpose, identity, and loyalties.
And a quick reminder, this podcast is intended for mature audiences. Minds Over Magic may include discussion of adult theme, strong language, violence, and sexually explicit content, especially as they relate to the romantasy novels we cover. Listener discretion is advised.
And as per usual, Katya, you are going to give us a recap of the chapters we are discussing today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm doing 5 chapters today, and I try to make it as concise as possible. My original recap was like 3 pages. So, this is just 1 page. Whoop. So before we jump in, a quick reminder of where we left off with Fourth Wing. Violet discovered that the Venin threat is real. Xaden and the Marked Ones are secretly part of a rebellion, and Brennan, who everyone believed was dead, is actually alive and fighting with them in Arisha. Iron Flame picks up right there. Violet is recovering in Arisha and reconnecting with Brennan, who is now one of the leaders of the revolution. During a meeting with the rebel leadership, it becomes clear that they're facing some major problems. First of all, they need more weapons capable of killing Venin. Then they need a luminary to forge them, and they also need to decide what to do about Violet now that she knows the truth. Violet insists that she can be trusted. Brennan also reveals that Niolin, Terran's previous rider, saved his life, but it cost him everything. The rebels believe the Venin may reach Navarre within 6 months. Arisha itself isn't protected by Navarre's wards, but there is a dormant wardstone in the city, and Violet suggests it might be possible to power it again, though Brennan believes forging weapons is the more realistic option. Meanwhile, Andarna has entered her adolescent stage. She is now much larger, no longer golden, and definitely a lot less sweet than before. I know Katheryn's upset about that. The squad ultimately decides that Violet and the Marked Ones should return to Basgiath to finish their training. Back at the college, the rest of the riders have no idea what really happened during the war games. Violet and Xaden deliver the cover story they agreed on. They were attacked by Griffin riders, Liam died in the fight, and the outpost of Arthbean was mysteriously empty. The leadership accepts the explanation, although Colonel Atus is clearly unhappy. Violet officially becomes the second-year rider, but things immediately become more complicated. Xaden is sent away to his new duty station, and the new Vice Commandant, Major Varish, imposes strict leave rules that force Violet and Xaden and their dragons to spend most of their time apart. Before leaving, Colonel Atus makes a threat to Violet. Secrets die with the people who keep them. So, what are your first impressions of these chapters, Katheryn?
Well, actually, I'm a listener of this. So I'm not actually reading it. I'm listening to it on audio, and it just went from just one person reading to now I've got this all different voices, and it's a very dramatized version. So
Yes.
it's actually right into it in the middle. I was like, oh my gosh, So it was actually quite exciting. And then I kind of felt not refreshing, but it kind of felt like I could breathe a little bit since they're setting the stage again for what's going to happen. So I felt like I was really into it. Like, I was telling you, we were talking about it, off the air, and I was just like, oh, I can't stop. So now I got to wait and start over.
Yeah. What do you think about the dramatized version? Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. I actually like it better because, even though I I have Violet's voice in my head now, and she's like, oh my gosh. but it's a little bit more. The voices are. It's just good. You can tell that they're better, and it's kind of setting the tone for the actual movie, and
Mhm, mhm.
you really get into it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I really
yeah.
like it.
Well, once you started dramatized version, I decided to download it as well, and it's an interesting experience, I have to say, because in a way, I miss Rebecca Solaire's narration or the audiobook because her
Yeah.
style is very kind of like military, you know.
Yes.
And though I like Violet's voice because her age and
Yeah.
also Zayden's voice as well. I mean, I love Teddy Hamilton. He's a great narrator generally, but I do think his voice is a little bit, old for Zayden. So it's
Mhm.
good to hear young voices. But it's also interesting how your perception changes of the
Yeah.
characters. I am now thinking about Professor Coyote. I always think of him as a good
Mhm.
guy, but now that I hear his voice in a dramatized narration, I'm like, is he a good guy? Can we trust him? you know, just because
Right.
of the voice
Right.
actor that they used for, his role. And also like Lilith's voice
Mhm.
is not as strict as
Strong. Yeah.
strong as so I think I would like Rebecca Solera to come back and do Lilith's voice or even Professor De Vera. Like, I think she was so good for
Yeah.
those. Anyway, yeah. No, I'm glad that you started that so then I had a reason to download it myself.
Yeah. And listening to it on the tube, I was telling you earlier,
Mhm,
I get lost. Like, I'm like, oh shoot, I missed my stop. So
mhm,
I have to go back, get off, turn back around because I'm a little bit more invested
mhm.
now. Yeah. I'm enjoying
Yeah.
it.
No, it's good. Well, we have a lot happening in these first
Mm.
chapters.
Mm.
But I don't want to start with Brennan or Lilith or Zayden or even Dane. I want to start with Andarna.
Okay.
You know how much I love symbolism. And to me, Andarna, her transformation is
Yeah.
like, it really stands out to me. In Fourth Wing, she was this sweet, almost childlike dragon who stood out because of her golden scales and her very limited arsenal of weapons. She didn't even
Yeah.
have claws and she couldn't breathe fire and all that. But when we see her again in Iron Flame, she's completely different. She's bigger, she's
Yeah.
darker, a lot less sweet, a bit cranky, hungry. Actually, like, love her in the new phase. But to me, that transformation mirrors Violet's own change. So what happened
Mhm.
at Dresden forced both of them to grow up very quickly. Violet's no longer the fragile underdog, just trying to survive Basgiath, and Dana is no longer the small golden hatchling who needed
Yeah.
protection. And she also lost her ability to stop time, right? Um, which was like a
Mm.
powerful safety net in Fourth Wing for Violet.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yeah.
another symbolism, actually. That's like it's a new face for Violet as well.
Right.
So I'm going to start with a big question for you, and it's not necessarily only Fourth Wing related. In storytelling, we often see companions or animals mirror a character's development. Why
Mm.
do you think readers connect so strongly with that? Like, is there a psychological angle for this?
Well, I do think that, of course, I wrote a bunch of notes too. I think that psychologically humans are wired to understand stories through relationships. So
Mm,
even when the relationship is with an animal or a dragon or a companion character, so when a creature kind of mirrors that character development and externalizes an internal change. So it allows us to see this emotional growth, and it might otherwise be invisible if we're not seeing it through the eyes of another creature.
mhm,
So Andarna's transformation works almost like a psychological symbol. And in Fourth Wing, she represents safety and innocence and protection.
mhm,
And Violet had this tiny little dragon who could literally stop time, which is almost the ultimate safety net,
mhm,
but in Iron Flame, that protection disappears. So Andarna grows up, loses power, becomes darker, more powerful, and a little bit more irritable. So,
yeah.
which, that mirrors what happens when someone goes through trauma or a life changing event, or the part of them that relied on the protection in the first place. And then innocence disappears and they move into more adult, complex version of
Mm,
themselves. So I think readers connect with, sorry, I'm moving around here now. readers connect with that because we've all experienced some version of that shift. And the moment when you realize that you can't go back to that
Mhm.
safer version of who you were before,
Mhm.
then you start to grow and change and morph into this adult or this person that you're going to
Yeah.
be.
I think it's something that we also used to, seeing in the books
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
fairy tales, there's always an animal sidekick. And it's just almost like
Mm,
we're wired to accept that. And then I do love when authors, writers do use the animals to show certain, development. And it's in so many books, that's
yeah.
like certain, I don't want to, I don't want to give spoilers for other books, but, like for example, in Harry Potter, what happens to his owl, signifies that, his childhood's over. Another good example, I suppose, is like his dark materials, when they literally have all of them have their souls in this sort of, demons, which are like animals who can shapeshift until the characters hit puberty.
Mm,
And then they settle. Or even
yeah.
Twilight, when the wolves, which like signifies the, I suppose, the volatile, teenage years, adolescence, something like it's a great symbolism. And I think we are very receptive to that, unless it's just me.
No, I think you're spot on. I think that's true. And it's great because it helps you have that connection, puts meaning into that
Yeah.
growth.
Well, even to be honest, Fourth Wing,
Hmm.
right? Like we're talking about Andarna here, but if you think about relationship between Zayden and Sigale or Violet and
Hmm.
Taryn,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
are their mirrors, right? And we talked a lot about it in discussing Fourth Wing about the connection and why do they pick them. And in the end, I think you
Right.
did say that, that it's not necessarily just a standard set of for all the dragons, like courage, bravery, all that. It's that they see
Right.
something familiar, right? Which helps readers then to understand the character.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, now going back to Violet. So many things. To me, one of the consequences of the growth that she went through is a new sense of purpose. In
Hmm.
Fourth Wing, Violet was mostly just trying to stay alive. But in Iron Flame, right from the start, she's thinking about how she can help the rebellion, how to defeat the
Right.
Venin, how to power Dormant Wardstone. And that feels like a significant shift. She's no longer just reacting to the events. She's trying to shape them. She wants
Hmm.
to have some degree of control, I suppose. She wants to take action. She wants to
Hmm.
protect. And in my head, the
Right.
reason why Violet switches into this action mode is because her world has just been turned upside down. Like she lost her footing and now she's trying to find her place in this new reality.
Right.
And I think it's what I would have done, to be honest. I think every time something stressful happened to me, like my first thought is like, okay, like how can I fix this? Like what's the plan of action? Um, does that seem plausible to you from a psychological perspective, or is there something else happening there?
Absolutely. No, I think it makes a lot of sense psychologically. When someone experiences a major shock or to their worldview, the brain tries to restore that sense of control. So one way people do that is by shifting into purposeful
Hmm.
action. So in trauma psychology, we sometimes see that this is called meaning making. So if something terrifying or destabilizing happens, people cope better when they can frame it as part of a larger purpose. So this is what she's doing. She's kind of moving from I need to survive Basgiath to how do we stop the venom? And then it actually is a very adaptive response. So she's transforming fear into responsibility. So purpose gives a structure to chaos. And when people feel that they're protecting others or working towards something meaningful, they can tolerate far more stress and danger than like if they're just simply trying to survive.
Mm-hmm. So having a sense of purpose make difficult or dangerous situations easier to tolerate then.
Very much so, because purpose activates motivation and those motivational systems in the brain that are closely tied to resilience. So when people believe that their suffering has
Mhm.
meaning, then they can endure extraordinary difficulty
Mm,
because you have this purpose. You're fighting with a purpose. You're rather than just fighting to survive. So we see this in soldiers, emergency room responders, or emergency responders, caregivers, or even patients going through some serious
mhm.
illness. And the belief is that this matters or someone needs me or that, changes how the brain processes
Yeah.
stress. And then, so Violet shifting into that protector mode doesn't necessarily reduce the danger that she's facing, but it makes the psychological burden a little bit more tolerable.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see
Sense.
that. I'm just thinking about myself, and it's just me. Like when I need to do something, I might just like,
Hmm.
no, I'm not gonna do that. Doesn't matter. I'll do it some other time. But when it's
Right.
like, especially if it's my son, like
Right.
something needs to be
Right.
done. Like we need to go. Like, oh, I don't want to get out of the house today. But then like he needs to go run, and it's just like, yeah, no, he's more important than my peace.
Protecting ourselves is one thing, but protecting others, especially those close to us, is a whole different story.
Hmm.
Like if my sisters or my brother were to call me today, I'd be on a plane tomorrow.
Yes.
What do you need? You know what I mean? So it's, if I need something, I'd be hesitant because I got this, I can do this. But if I know if someone else really does need something, I would be okay. Let's do this.
So there is that psychological shift, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a shift that protecting others versus protecting yourself. It's important as a psychological transition because someone moves from self protection to protecting others as their identity expands too.
Hmm.
So stop thinking only in terms of, oh, what's going to happen to me? And they say, what responsibility do I have to the people around me? I think that's what Zayden was going through this whole
Hmm.
time because during the time that Violet was trying to protect herself, Zayden was trying to protect everybody.
Hmm. Yeah.
So she wasn't getting that. She hadn't moved into that segment yet because she was just trying to survive herself.
Yeah.
And so it's very empowering, but it also raises the stakes emotionally because now failure doesn't just affect
Hmm.
you. It affects everyone you care about,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know? And so Violet stepping into that role means that she's going to um, have some part in leadership, but it also means that she's carrying a heavier psychological burden as well.
Mm. I love that. I really like it because it makes sense, the rift between Zayden and Violet,
Mm,
because they are in totally different modes. And though we
right.
did discuss that before, we never kind of went into the too deep. And because it is quite a common theme in a lot of romantasy novels, when the character is hiding something for the greater good,
Yeah.
and then there is that. But yeah, no, it explains the misunderstanding there, because you're always just like, well, obviously, he's a good guy. Forgive him for keeping the secrets. But
Yes.
yeah,
It's,
she's not there yet,
yeah.
which, you know what? This is perfect because I can't wait for Violet's new phase.
Right. It's all about the process, right? I mean, we don't just jump into everything and we don't just understand everything, but process and life and transition help
Yeah.
us carry us to that next part of our life. And all of us, some things don't make sense and we wonder why we go through things. But then once you're out on the other side, you think, okay,
Yeah.
I'm stronger for that. And I'm not happy that I went through that, but actually it's okay because it made me who I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this new sense of purpose immediately creates another complication for Violet, right? Because now she
Hmm.
belongs to several different worlds that don't truly trust each other. And, she's
Hmm.
Brennan's sister in the revolution. She's General Sorrengail's daughter. She's still a rider at the Basgiath. She's still a cadet. And she's also Zayden's partner. I mean, no matter how much
Hmm.
she tries to deny it. And those worlds don't really align anymore. And the tricky part is that Violet can't openly choose which of these roles to play, right? Like she has to exist in
Right.
all of them at the same time without fully revealing where she stands. So she's actually entering her new little secret or even like spy era. And
Hmm.
like she now knows things she can't share, and she has to control what she says depending on who she's talking to. And I
Hmm.
really want to cackle here because of all the grief that she was giving Satan. But anyway, um,
Right. Right.
I know we touched on this in one of our earlier episodes when we talked about the masks that we wear.
Hmm.
But in Violet's case, those masks are now starting to conflict with each other. So psychologically, what happens when someone has to maintain several different identities at the same time? Literally, like when there is a conflict between these roles.
Right. That's where this gets a little bit psychologically messy
Hmm.
because humans generally prefer to have a stable identity and a sense of who we are is consistent across different environments. But Violet now has to have several identities, and that is sometimes they conflict with each other. So she's got her identity as Brennan's sister in the rebellion, like you said. She's General Sorrengail's daughter, right? Like you said, she's a writer in Basgiath, and she's also connected to Xaden. So each of these roles, they expect something different from
Hmm.
her. So when someone has to consistently manage different identities and filter what they say depending on the
Hmm.
audience, it creates something called an identity strain almost. So it requires a lot of mental energy because you're constantly monitoring
Hmm.
yourself. And yes, it can absolutely create isolation
Hmm.
because the more secrets you hold, the fewer people that you can relax
Hmm.
around. So holding that um it's definitely messy, I think. I know, therapists, as friends of mine, we don't talk about a lot of things. We talk about things that are completely different than
Hmm.
therapy at times, just to not have to share that side because we hold a lot of
Hmm.
stories in our heads and a lot of stories inside because we're the keeper of secrets of others,
Hmm.
right? And keeper of confidentiality and that. So, yeah, sometimes it feels isolating. So we just talk about other things. We make sure that we have different lives.
Hmm.
We do a podcast that we talk about dragons and
Yeah.
romance so that we don't have to have that other identity conflicting,
Yeah.
I guess.
I was thinking about like good examples of, these situations apart from, if you're working for like CIA or MI5 or
Right, right, right.
MI6,
Am I
MI6.
six? Yeah.
Um,
Am I
mhm.
seven? Six, seven.
Uh,
Am I
my 6, 7. And I thought about maybe, and I don't know if it's a good example or not, but I have some friends who struggle with when their families don't accept their partners,
Mm,
and they're stuck between these two worlds when their parents, for example, would just not approve, even though they're married already. I'm not even talking about like girlfriend, boyfriend. And then their
right.
partners are kind of also might not like their parents or be kind of indifferent. Well, they don't like me, so I'm not going to make an effort. And you're stuck between these two worlds and you have to navigate it all the time.
Right.
But I suppose in this case, you can at least state your position. You're like, no, like I am like loyal to my partner or whatever. But still, it's very hard.
Mm, I think a lot of people do it. I think we do it more than we think we do.
Mm,
When you go into work and you go into an office and you're that person at work, and then you go out with your friends and you're that person with your friends. And sometimes we can be authentic, but maybe not as authentic with the people that we don't trust or we don't know as well.
mhm,
I have really close friends that we can just relax,
mhm,
and then other friends you don't know that well, or you might have just met,
mm.
that you just wouldn't give away all of your coolness, I guess, No, all of your they don't really know me very well. I have one friend that's so funny. I've just recently I met them a couple years ago, and they didn't really know me. They knew me in the confines of work,
Mm-mm.
and it was several years ago. And then they got to know me outside of work, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, just so many layers." And I'm like, "Really?" Like, I don't even think they liked me at work. I think they just were like, this is just who she is. And it's so funny because we all have different ways of, work is very professional, and it's also very,
Mhm.
intimidating and that kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
so you're always around, especially colleagues too. And so it's so funny. And we just laugh about it now. But
Yeah.
yeah. Is it sustainable? In the short term, yes, but in the long term, it becomes really exhausting. So people who maintain major secrets often experience increased anxiety and hypervigilance because they're always calculating, what they can reveal.
Mhm.
And it can create loneliness because authenticity and that feeling that someone truly knows you becomes difficult.
Mhm. Mhm.
So Violet entering this spy era may mean that she's stepping into some psychologically demanding times,
Mhm.
you know? So,
I'm laughing because for some reason the spy era reminds me of like Taylor Swift. I mean, even though she never had like spy
oh,
era, but I was just like Violet in her spy era.
I was totally going to say that, by the way. Violet's in her spy era because she's also a Taylor Swift fan. I would believe it. If Violet knew Taylor, they would be friends.
Well, Rebecca is, right? Rebecca is a Swiftie,
Yes.
so.
That's why she's in her spy era.
By the way, how come we didn't talk about Taylor's songs that go well with Fourth Wing?
Oh, Opalite.
Well, yes, Opalite, that's right. But I was thinking other songs, like for example, every time I read the scene on the parapet when Violet comes to get Xaden, I'm always thinking about Dress, you know, the song.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to listen to that one.
That's the one when she says, put this dress so you can take it off.
Oh, yeah. Is it from her Speak Now?
I think it's from Reputation. No?
Let me find out.
Yes, it is from Reputation.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's my favorite album of Taylor's.
Well, that's why you know that song
I know
well.
that song well, yeah.
Dress. Wow. Okay. We can talk about that.
You know what? It should be a full different episode.
It really could be a whole episode in itself. What Taylor Swift songs are in?
Yeah, exactly. I think Rebecca actually, when she was talking about the next book, about book 4, she revealed 3 or 4 songs by Taylor Swift that she was thinking about as she was writing the story. Like if I tell you those songs, it will be a spoiler. They fit really, really well.
Thanks.
Rebecca is awesome.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay. All right, let's get this party started.
Okay, right. Yeah, so Xaden actually shares some advice, right, with Violet. And she does ask for advice. She is asking him, like, how do you do that? Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to act? You know, she has her close friends, and he tells her basically, if you can't lie, keep your distance. Which, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go for Violet, but, you know, let's see. And another important part of this new reality for Violet is Brennan, right? Not only he is alive, which is still a huge emotional shift, but he's also one of the leaders of the revolution. And so Violet,
just awesome.
Yeah. She isn't choosing between institutions anymore, right? Like her own brother is part of the conflict. It's like she's choosing almost between her brother and her mother. But interestingly, she treats Brennan very differently from Xaden.
I would choose my brother.
Yeah, siblings. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that it does annoy me a little bit that, you know, Brennan let her believe that he was dead for 6 years. 6 years. And Xaden is only smuggling some daggers. Like, what a big deal, you know? And she's like, didn't flip on Brennan or barely flipped on Brennan. I'm joking. But still, is it harder for people to think objectively when family is involved?
I would say that family changes how we evaluate our behavior, for sure. We tend to think that we give family members the benefit of the doubt more easily than outsiders because you've spent more time, you know, your blood. You know, you spent more time. And I think she knew Brennan when she was in her formative years, right? Yeah. And so part of that becomes from attachment bonds. So our brains are wired to protect the relationships because historically and survival depends on them. So when we have a family member that hurts us, we're more likely to reinterpret the actions in a forgiving way. Well, with Brennan, Violet might unconsciously assume that there must have been some good reason. And with Xaden, she's still kind of deciding whether he's safe to trust because she doesn't know him as well. She doesn't have those formative years with him. Yeah. So standards are a little bit different. Even logically, the betrayal might actually be comparable.
Yeah. And actually it makes sense, right, with Dane as well, even though Dane is not her sibling, but because she knew him from the age of 5 and he was part of her childhood and growing up, she's giving him more chances, right? She probably would have told another person to sod off already, you know, many, many times. So yeah, no, makes sense. And Brennan is Violet's brother,
Mm.
but they're quite different. Um, Even though we didn't spend much time with Brennan,
Mm.
but the way of thinking is different.
Yeah, one's more creative and the other one's more pragmatic,
Yeah.
maybe?
Violet immediately jumps to that creative ideas, right, about power in the
Mhm.
Wardstone, while Brennan is like still focused on forging weapons. And
Mm.
actually, like talk about Dane. Brennan does remind me a little bit of Dane because like he kind of
Mm.
dismisses Violet, and he's also relying on proven solutions. So I wonder how much Brennan is a rule follower. Maybe not to the same extent as
Mm.
Dane, but you know what I mean. Did you feel
Right.
that the same thing?
Well, he's more of an authority figure for her. I think there's that kind of a feel. Maybe he feels more protection.
Yeah.
I would think it's just also a difference in it reflects their coping styles. So Brennan represents that pragmatic, problem focused mindset. He's focused on solutions that are proven and achievable, like you said. Um, and like you said, the forging of the weapons and that. But Violet tends toward that exploratory thinking, and she's willing to consider unconventional ideas. And, so neither approach is wrong, but in crisis situations, people often default to the style that their match their personalities, like that they're used to, and their training.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the best outcomes happen when they both are in the room,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because she was trained as a scribe, right?
Yeah.
So she has ideas and different ways of. I still think about when they went back into her mom's, office and took that,
Yeah. But
the
even
map.
like with Brennan, right? Like when Brennan literally knows nothing and Violet just walked into this whole situation, just found out like few hours ago, I mean, minus the time when she was
Hmm.
unconscious, about the Venom. And she already is like, oh yeah, no, Wyverns are not hatched. They are made. And Brennan's like, well, how do you know?
Because she's got that scribe in the back of her
Yeah. Well, I mean, she kept their
head, which
dad's
is,
book, right? So I think she was just fascinated. Right? That obviously helped just having the book and
yeah.
reading it many, many times. It's like I can probably recite some of my favorite childhood books, which I still have. But yeah,
Love her.
it's good for Violet to be on board. I think it's good for Brennan, good for Zayden. They might not
Yeah.
realize it yet, but well, I think Zayden knows. Brennan might need a bit more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and talking about family, I think it's safe to say that at this point, Lilith had nothing to do with Athbeen, which I'm very happy about.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of readers were very happy about it. And I loved that moment from Lilith when we got a glimpse of a mother there.
Yeah.
And we can only guess what Lilith might have gone through in private after learning what happened when Violet was reported as dead. But to the world, she remains the general, right? Like she doesn't really allow herself to
Yeah.
show anything else. But how about Dane? What do you think? Do you think he knew what Violet was actually going to face? I mean, he certainly acted like he didn't know, but can we trust Dane? What's your gut feel about this whole situation with Dane?
Well, that's interesting because this his behavior seems like it's from a genuine desire to protect, like we talked about before, but protection sometimes crosses control. So when someone believes that they know that what the safest thing is for a person, they can justify actions that remove the person's
Hmm.
autonomy. So whether Day knew what Violet was walking into or not, his underlying pattern is the same. He believes he should be the one deciding what information she can handle.
Mm.
So, as the dynamic is exactly why readers react strongly to him because, you know, he still has that protection role and the control because there's a fine line there.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So,
So,
I don't know. Protection versus control.
um,
Yeah.
well, what do you think? Did he know? What's your guess? And actually, I mean, considering like, his father obviously knows about Venin and everything, do you think Dane knows about Venin?
You know what? I'm not sure because he so blindly follows the rules that he might not know. But I don't know. And if he does know, he might has made himself believe that maybe they're not real.
Mhm.
I don't know. Um
Yeah.
I feel like even if he did know what she was getting herself into, like you know how he told Zayden, you're gonna get her
Mhm,
killed.
mhm.
Like he kind of knew it was
Yeah, he
dangerous.
knew he was dangerous. Yeah,
Um
but the question is, right, did he know what's going to happen in Athene, or did he know the plan, or was it just a legitimate concern, like you're taking her beyond the woods, like it's dangerous, like what are you doing? She's first year. I always
I
wanted to
don't know.
believe that he
I don't
didn't.
know. Yeah, I feel like he did know, but he's so brainwashed that he tried to tell himself it's doesn't matter because we've got the greater good.
Okay.
I think sometimes people they go along with things that necessarily might be true, but it conflicts with their morals
Mhm.
because they feel like there's a greater purpose.
Mhm, mhm,
And that's I think where military, is not allowed to question.
mhm,
And when you get into a space like that, there's so much inner turmoil that goes on in yourself that it takes a very, very strong person that's almost willing to lose themselves completely
mhm,
because you'd have to change who you are to change
mhm,
course. And that's rare,
mhm,
and it's it's very courageous and powerful, but also dangerous
mhm,
at the same time. So I'm afraid that maybe he knew and he just was trying to tell himself he didn't really know.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Or
But
he knew and he was
I
trying
don't
to
know.
spare her that fate, but when she is like,
Yeah.
well, there's nothing I can do now, she kind of made her bed.
Yeah. And then she can lie in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where that covers that. Like, well, then I'm not going to tell her either.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to,
Yeah.
it's out of my
Yeah.
hands. And that's kind of what he kind of said. Like, I'm trying to save you, but you're not listening to me because he's not giving her all the
Hmm,
information.
hmm. Yeah. But
So,
do you think he's genuinely happy that she's alive?
uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
I think he's happy that she's alive, but he's not happy that she broke the rules because he's a total rule follower.
Oh, of course.
And he's okay and he's disappointed in her and he will never marry her because she broke the rules.
Yeah.
He's not going to put his name on her dance card. Let's just say that.
That's God. Is this from Bridgerton? Is it? That's a weird thing to say. um,
It's very British.
um,
Katya.
mm. Well, can we just take a moment to appreciate how satisfying it was when Lilith absolutely destroyed Aegis Senior with just one look. And then in chapter 5, we learn that he has been reassigned, essentially fired.
I'm so happy that he is gone.
Justice for Athene. Yeah, love you, Lilith. Just the best. I wonder what Dane thinks about it, though. Like, how would that affect him? If at all, like, would he be horrified that his dad lost his position? Or would the same, like, rule following apply? Well, he shouldn't have done that. Yeah, he deserves resign.
Well, maybe he needs to wake up. Sometimes you need a wake up call.
Mm,
So there are consequences for behaviors that are not appropriate.
yeah,
And I don't think everybody gets them like they should.
yeah.
But yeah,
Like, I really want to know the relationship between them, between Dane and his dad, like how close they were.
I think he respected him. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah,
question.
yeah. And we don't know. Like, I mean, it's a genuine question for me. I have no
Yeah.
idea how close they were until this point. How much Aegis Senior invested into Dane. Oh, this is it. I don't have any more questions. Look at that.
We're all
We're all
done. We're all
done. We're all
finished.
finished. Yeah. Well, that was very eventful chapter. Loads happened there, and I loved all the moments from this chapter. But I think that's where we're going to leave our
Yeah.
discussion for today and move to our favorite
Okay.
segment: Who needs therapy?
Woohoo. I, of course, obviously answer every week, everyone. Um, but I think if I had to choose one person, I think it would be Violet this week because she has this shock of multiple psychological shocks in this short period of time. And discovering a hidden war, realizing the government is lying, learning that her brother is alive, losing Liam, and now living with these major secrets. Again, we talked about this a little bit in the last episode too. But it's a lot of emotional processing again to carry on
Mm-hmm.
while trying to function in this high stress environment. So I would say Violet,
Mm-hmm.
and she's definitely getting the first appointment because she's got a whole new role in Basgiath too,
Mm-hmm.
So
What would you do? Would you let her like talk it out, or do you think she needs something different?
I would probably start EMDR with her, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. But yeah, definitely she would talk about it, and then we could do some other stuff. But
Yeah.
for sure, she would need to start to compartmentalize, or in her head, kind of figure out what her roles are in different areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Katheryn. So before we wrap up, what's your favorite Minds of a Magic moment for this week? What made you feel? Can you pick
I
one?
think I know, right? Oh, I loved it all.
Yeah.
I loved it this week because it was so new, the dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a minute to kind of get into it because I was so used to the old version. Um, but I really think that with our Endarna, the moment that we realize that she's no longer this small golden dragon who needs protecting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of bittersweet because growth often means losing parts of life that felt the safest.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's mirroring Violet's journey and perfectly. And I've always loved Endarna anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know which one to pick, to be honest. There's so many of those great moments. I loved Braden's story.
Yeah.
How he couldn't basically come back and he made the choice to stay and fight once he found out the truth. I think that's very moving, that you
Mm.
pick your loyalties and he had to make this hard choice of leaving Mira and Violet. And he kind of said, well, you had dad. Um, and it's all thoughts
Yeah.
about like who knew, like did their dad know? And that leads to another one is while I was
Yeah.
reading these chapters, by the end, you're like, who can Violet trust? I mean, she'll have to,
Mm.
I mean, in her spy era, it's not just hiding it from people who are closest to her. But I was thinking about Jasenia.
Mm.
How much does Jasenia know, as a scribe in their friends?
Right.
And I was thinking about all the professors and like the leadership and how many
Right.
people are aware of it and how careful they have to be. She obviously has to hide it from her friends, but if somebody finds out, would she be in trouble? Like if she shares with Jasenia, for example,
Yeah. It's a lot pressure.
it's a lot of pressure. Yeah, I'm excited for this book because it is my favorite book out of the three. I love Fourth
Mm.
Wing for the story, for like the slow burn, between Violet and Xaden.
Mm.
But Iron Flame, I love for the politics, the navigating those difficult situations. I mean, Xaden's not going anywhere. We're going to still see him, but
Right. You know what? I was so surprised by book one was the story. I think I was telling you that before. Is I had a total different perception of romantasy.
Mhm.
You get scared and you think it's all sex and smut, but it's such a good story. And it wasn't what I thought it was.
Mhm.
It was better.
Yeah, yeah. To be
You
honest,
know.
like there is this big argument, and if our listeners listen to Sarah J. Maas interview on the
Hmm.
Call Her Daddy podcast, I think it's called. And she does
Hmm.
talk about it, how romantasy is associated with smut, and
Hmm.
how it could be quite hurtful for the genre. Because actually, once you look at the statistics, I think Fourth Wing, if I'm not mistaken, 1% is sex, the
Yeah,
book.
I would say.
And one of the spiciest books that I read, it was actually by Sarah J. Maas herself, and it's Archetype Book 5. It's called The Court of Silver Flames. Uh, Everybody talks about it as very, very spicy. 5%. 5% of the book is spice. And when people, laugh and compare it, for example, to Game of Thrones, for some reason, nobody calls Game of Thrones smut. Because it's written by a guy. It's on TV. Everybody loved
because
it.
there's so much death and destruction around the smut that you wouldn't even think about it. There's so much shocking death and destruction.
Rebecca, we need more
But
deaths.
yes,
No.
you're fine, Rebecca. We're good.
Yes.
We're good. I like it. I like the balance. I like that there's an actual real story there.
Yeah. And the characters are so believable. Anyway, we're going to save this discussion for our general episode that's
Oh, yes.
come in sometime in April about why Romantasy.
Yes.
So, yeah. But that's it for today. Next episode, we're diving back into Iron Flame and discussing chapters 6 to 10. We are heading back to the parapet. And I'm excited about that.
Whoop, whoop. Get your shoes ready. Follow us on Instagram at Minds Over Magic or email us at mindsovermagic@gmail.com with your questions, comments, or Romantasy Rex.
Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share with your fellow magic-minded friends. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think about these chapters.
Until next time, keep your mind sharp and your heart open.
Bye-bye.